I wasn't supposed to be awake that night. I had to be up for work in just a few hours. My phone battery was dying, and my eyes were burning from staring at the screen for way too long. But at 3:12 in the morning, I scrolled past a Reddit post that just felt wrong. It had no title, no username, no comments, just a solid block of text. Now, that part wasn't too strange. Reddit is full of weird, anonymous posts. But what really grabbed my attention was the time. It said, last edited, 3 a.m. Exactly. Not 2:59. Not 3:01. 3 o'clock on the dot. Just out of pure curiosity, I refreshed the page. The edit time stayed the same, but a single new sentence had appeared at the very bottom. It read, "If you're reading this right now, please don't ignore what happens next." I really should have closed the app and gone to sleep. Instead, I scrolled back to the top and started reading. The post began with a simple sentence, "I live alone, and I always have." The writer went on to explain that they had recently moved into a small rental house on the outskirts of a quiet town. It wasn't anything special, just a single-story place with 2 bedrooms and old wooden floors that creaked with every step. They worked night shifts at a local warehouse and slept during the day. Their routine was boring, but it was predictable. At least, it was until about 3 weeks ago. That's when the noises started. At first, it was all very subtle. A soft creak from the hallway. A faint thud near the back door. The sound of something light, almost like fabric, brushing against the walls. The writer just assumed it was the house settling, or maybe raccoons trying to get in. Old houses make weird noises, especially in the dead of night. But soon, the sounds started to form a pattern. Every single night, at precisely 2:58 a.m., they would hear footsteps. They were slow, heavy, and deliberate. The steps always started near the living room, made their way down the hall, and always stopped right outside their bedroom door. And they always ended at exactly 3 a.m. The footsteps never crossed the threshold into the bedroom. They just waited. The writer said they never opened the door. They never dared to check. They just stayed perfectly still in bed, holding their breath, staring at the dark, empty outline of the doorframe. This happened every single night, until one night, something changed. That night, the footsteps didn't stop outside the bedroom door. They continued. The soft groan of the floorboards as weight shifted on them. Breathing, and it wasn't their own. Someone else was in the room with them. They squeezed their eyes shut, pretending to be asleep, trying to keep their own breathing even. Their heart was pounding so hard they were absolutely convinced that whoever or whatever was in the room could hear it. The sound of breathing moved closer, right next to the bed. Then came a whisper. It was so quiet, they almost thought they'd imagined it. The whisper said, "You lied." And then, just as suddenly, the footsteps retreated. The house went completely silent. And at exactly 3 a.m., it was over. The writer didn't sleep a wink after that. They stayed awake until the sun came up, with all the lights on, the bedroom door locked, gripping their phone like it was their only connection to reality. Later that day, they decided to check their security cameras. The footage showed nothing. No intruder, no movement, no anomalies at all, except for one very strange thing. At exactly 2:58 a.m., the living room camera glitched out. For exactly 2 minutes. The post then went on to explain the lie. A week earlier, a co-worker had asked them a completely harmless question. "Do you live alone?" Without even thinking, they said yes. They didn't know why they lied. It just came out, maybe out of pride or just habit. But the second the word left their mouth, they felt a deep, unsettling feeling, as if someone else had been listening to their conversation. At 2:56 a.m., they said it again, a little louder. This time, the writer didn't run to their bedroom. They stayed right where they were, in the living room. The footsteps approached from the hallway, just as slow and patient as always. Then, they stopped, right in front of them. Then came the whisper again, right next to their ear. Say it again. Their mouth went completely dry. They couldn't see anything. There was no shape, no shadow, just an overwhelming sense of presence. Their voice trembling, they managed to choke out the words, I live alone. The whisper replied instantly, without a pause. No, you don't. The lights went out completely, and at exactly 3 a.m., everything reset. The lights came back on, the cold faded, and the presence was gone. The writer ended that section by saying they were no longer sure what was real and what was unt. They stopped sleeping at home. They tried staying at a friend's place, but every night, like clockwork, at 2:58 a.m., their phone would buzz. It was always a notification from Reddit. The post had been edited, and the message was always the same. You can't leave until you tell the truth. That's when the post took an even darker turn. The writer explained they had started losing time. They would find themselves waking up in different rooms of the house with absolutely no memory of how they got there. Doors they knew they had locked would be wide open. Objects on shelves would be rearranged. But the most disturbing part was the food. Plates with leftover food would be left in the sink, but they had no memory of cooking or eating anything. One night, they decided they needed proof. They set up their phone to record themselves while they slept. The next day, they watched the video. It showed them lying in bed, motionless, breathing slowly. Then, at 2:58 a.m., the camera's microphone picked up the sound of footsteps. Then, something impossible happened on screen. The writer sat up in bed, slowly, mechanically. Their eyes were wide open, but completely empty, like a doll's. They stood up, walked just out of the camera's view, and whispered something the microphone barely managed to catch. The whisper said, "I'm not alone." At exactly 3 a.m., they walked back to the bed, lay down, and became still again. The writer said they watched that video only once. They deleted it immediately. It was ruled an accident. At least, that's what everyone was led to believe. The truth was much more complicated. The writer had lied back then, a crucial lie about what really happened that day, and it seemed the house had remembered. The final paragraph of the post was short, almost casual. It said, "If you're reading this after 3 a.m., it means it's already aware of you. Don't lie tonight. And if you hear footsteps at 2:58, don't open the door." I just stared at my phone, completely frozen. The time on my screen now read 3:14 a.m. My heart was pounding in my chest. I let out a nervous laugh, trying to shake off the creepy feeling that was crawling up my spine. It was just a story. A well-written, scary post on the internet. That's all. And then my Reddit app refreshed on its own. The post updated. A single new line appeared at the very bottom. He's reading this now. My bedroom door creaked open, just an inch. Somewhere else in my apartment, a floorboard groaned under a heavy weight, and my phone buzzed one last time. Post edited, 3 a.m.